This is truly my very number 5 favorite in my deepest heart. Above the sea, stars fill the sky. Bowing my head, I journey 1,000 miles. Oh heart so cool, quietly bustling. What kind of a heart is this, really? Hurry swiftly and violently, shatter the entire world into pieces. Hurry swiftly and awaken from deep dreams, from the heaven to the earth.
It turns out that 3 months ago, the Queen had a strange dream. In her dream, a beautiful 9-colored deer appeared. Its legs were snow white. Its fur had 9 different colors. When it ran, it looked like a long, straight rainbow, endlessly admired and loved. The Queen suddenly woke up from her dream and softly uttered to herself,
"If such a beautiful 9-colored deer really exists in this world, then I must have it. I want to decorate my bedchamber with its snow-white legs and its beautiful fur. If I made a colorful winter robe from it, it would surely be the most beautiful in the world."
At first, the Queen thought it was just a dream. But the next night, she dreamed of the 9-colored deer again. On the 3rd night, she still dreamed of the 9-colored deer. During this series of days, the Queen not only dreamed of it every day, but whenever she closed her eyes, she would see the 9-colored deer appear. So the Queen became more and more convinced that such a 9-colored deer really existed in this world. She was determined to obtain that beautiful 9-colored deer. Because of this, the Queen actually stopped eating and drinking and fell seriously ill. The King went to see her illness. The Queen said sorrowfully,
"Your Majesty, my illness will never get better unless you can catch that 9-colored deer for me."
The King loved the Queen deeply, and as long as the Queen remained ill, the King could not be happy for even a single day. He said,
My dear, I will spare no cost to catch that 9-colored deer for you as soon as possible.
So the king issued an order. Anyone who discovered the 9-colored deer and reported it to the king and helped capture it would be granted half of the kingdom. And he would also be rewarded with 2 rare treasures. One was a treasure box made of gold, filled with an endless supply of silver rice. The other was a treasure box made of silver, filled with an endless supply of golden rice. After hearing his wife's words, the man who had been saved from drowning was left speechless because the king's reward was simply too tempting. However, but whenever he thought of the life-saving kindness of the 9-colored deer, the man couldn't help but keep blaming himself in his heart. That night, he couldn't sleep well at all. Lying in bed, he tossed and turned, muttering a lot in his sleep. The next morning, his wife said to him,
Hey, I heard all the things you said in your sleep last night. You should be happy. My husband might be the only person who has ever seen the 9-colored deer. Oh my, the goddess of fate is smiling upon us. If an opportunity like this comes and you don't seize it for our future, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
Hearing this, the man hurriedly stammered and denied everything, warning his wife not to talk nonsense. But that night, he actually talked even more, and for even longer in his sleep than the night before. On the 3rd morning, his wife quietly said,
Last night, you talked in your sleep again. And you even told the whole story of the 9-colored deer in detail. Now I completely understand how you feel. But let me tell you this. Deer are meant to be hunted by people anyway. If you still don't go claim the reward today, and someone else beats you to it by then, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
No matter what, betraying the 9-colored deer would leave me with a guilty conscience for the rest of my life.
His wife looked at him for a brief moment, then slowly she said, Well,
do you know? The Queen is already on the verge of death. Please think about it carefully. As a subject of the kingdom, should you save the Queen or save a deer?
Just as his wife finished speaking, suddenly a fierce clap of thunder rumbled across the sky. The next day, the man who had nearly drowned finally came before the king and said,
Your Majesty, I know where the 9-colored deer is, but if I help you catch it, will you really reward me with half the kingdom and those 2 treasures?
A king never goes back on his word. If I can obtain the 9-colored deer, I will definitely fulfill my promise.
The 9-colored deer lives in the forest upstream of the Ganges River. On clear days, it comes to the grassland by the riverbank. That's the best time to make a move.
As soon as the drowning man finished speaking, sores broke out all over his face. But he didn't realize it himself and kept on talking.
However, the 9-colored deer is extremely clever. Your Majesty must send more people and horses in order to catch it.
So the king sent a large group of people and horses to set many traps all around the grassland. He personally led his elite warriors and ordered the drowning man to act as their guide, quietly making their way up the riverbank. Sure enough, the king saw an incredibly beautiful 9-colored deer, as if it was woven from brocade and rainbows. The deer was leaning lazily against a patch of wildflowers, leisurely scratching an itch. It was the little crow who had sharp eyes. It immediately spotted the crowd and hurriedly shouted a warning to the 9-colored deer.
Oh no, we've been surrounded by people.
But the 9-colored deer wasn't nervous at all. He calmly said,
Oh, someone must have broken their promise.
The little crow grew even more anxious and cried out,
Hurry, run, there's still time to escape. Even though But people's greed will never run away. Alas, this disaster was all caused by me. Little crow, let me bear it alone.
At this moment, the crowd surrounding them drew closer and closer. The king's bow and arrow were already aimed at the 9-colored deer's heart. The 9-colored deer stood up and spoke loudly.
Your Majesty, please let me say one thing before you let me die.
The king was extremely surprised. A deer could actually speak human language. He immediately put down his bow and arrow and listened intently. 9-colored deer, go on.
Your Majesty, I once did a favor for one of your subjects. I believe that besides him, no one else knows my whereabouts. May I ask who told you I was here?
The king pointed to the flower-faced man beside him. The 9-colored deer looked closely, and sure enough, it was the man he had saved from drowning. He was heartbroken. He couldn't help but burst into tears and said sadly,
Your Majesty, 3 days ago someone accidentally fell into the river. He was about to drown. I risked my life and jumped into the water to save him. That man told me he wished to serve as my slave for life to repay me. I did not accept his offer. But since he kept begging me, I had no choice but to ask him to promise me one thing. That was not to tell anyone about my whereabouts. He even swore to the heavens that he would keep his word. I never expected that in just a few short days he would break his promise. I always thought that people were trustworthy. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have saved him in the first place.
The king was both moved and embarrassed when he heard this. He said regretfully,
It all started with a ridiculous dream. My kingdom has turned into a land of greed. Everyone's heart has been clouded by greed. All for a piece of deerskin. My wife lost her health. She even nearly lost her life. And I lost my happiness. I even almost lost my kingdom. How foolish I was.
The king slowly raised his head. He looked up at the sky and sighed loudly.
Humanity, humanity. Are you truly the spirit of all things or the embodiment of greed?
Then the king turned to the masked man and said,
You were deeply indebted to Linglu for saving your life. Not only did you fail to repay her properly, but you also couldn't resist the temptation of greed. You were even willing to cruelly kill your savior. Even a deer knows compassion and risked its life to save you. But you, as a human, were instead cold-hearted, ruthless, and untrustworthy. You almost caused me to make a grave mistake as well.
So the king ordered the release of the 9-colored deer, banished the masked man from the kingdom, and issued a decree throughout the land that no one was ever allowed to harm the 9-colored deer again. From then on, the forest once again became a paradise for animals. Thousands upon thousands of birds and beasts came from all directions to settle here. They accompanied the 9-colored deer on the grasslands, enjoying a peaceful and beautiful life together. And what about this kingdom? The story isn't over yet. That night, the king returned to the palace and told the queen about what had happened during the day. The queen also felt ashamed after hearing this. She said,
It's my fault. Because of a deerskin I dreamed of, I caused everyone in the country to go crazy over the hunt.
It's all because I was too muddle-headed and gave a wrong order. I tempted everyone to chase after dreams of getting rich. Even I myself was living in a fisherman's dream. But today, we should all truly awaken from our slumbering dreams.
From then on, the king and queen became devoted practitioners. They also led all their people to take refuge in Buddhism. Strangely enough, from that day on, the queen's illness miraculously disappeared. So in the days that followed, this kingdom enjoyed favorable weather year after year. Everyone had plenty to eat and wear, no one ever got sick again, and no one was unhappy anymore. Many, many years later, a truly great Buddha was finally manifested in this ancient and sacred kingdom. This Buddha, like the 9-colored deer, loved to teach the Dharma on the hillsides. Devout men and women from across the land, along with the birds and beasts of the forest, all joyfully gathered at his lotus seat to listen to the teachings of the Buddha. When he preached, countless golden rays would shine from his forehead, just like the morning sun. At that moment, the mountain peaks would echo with exclamations of praise. Waves of fragrance would drift through the air. And in the sky, great clusters of flowers would be dancing and swirling.
front of my house there is a river, and in the river there are many daughters. White clouds drift across the sky, reflected on the water surface. Breeze stirs ripples, brushing trees. Their fruits bustle. What keeps them busy? My home is on a small hillside where life is full of joy. I am a little apple, and the small hillside is a land of miracles. I wish to spend my whole life laughing, filling the world with laughter.